probably don't need this, so I'll just make sure I speak louder.
Yeah, you do.
Actually, it's for us. There's the cameras.
Drop it down and speak normally.
All right, so let's make sure you guys get good audio on that one. But I want to welcome everyone for being here today to the press conference Ohioans for Workplace Freedom. My name is Mike Wilson. I'm the president of the Cincinnati Tea Party and a board member of the Ohio Liberty Council. I'm just going to be playing traffic cop more than anything else. We're going to go ahead and get started with opening statements. We're going to start with Chris Littleton, board member of the Ohio Liberty Council, follow it up with Maurice Thompson, the executive director for the 1851 Center for Constitutional Law, and then Bryan Williams, who is director of government affairs for Associated Builders and Contractors. After that, we'll go ahead and we'll open up the questions and run that for about 10 minutes. So with no further ado, Chris Littleton.
Well, hello again, everyone. Last time I stood before you, I was making an announcement that we were hoping to secure healthcare freedom in the state of Ohio. That was almost 2 years ago. Today I stand before you. We'd like to secure workplace freedom for every single Ohioan. So I'll tell you a little bit about the why of we're doing this. I actually did a prepared statement because my wife asked me about this. She says, why in the world do you want to go through this again? And for me, it was quite a personal conversation because it is a lot of our lives. It's very consuming. And we know what it takes to get something on the ballot now. We know what it takes to get something on the ballot now. And we know the work that's going to be involved. It could be for quite an extended period of time. So what I told her was this is the legacy that I think we're all going to leave to our children. That we need to enshrine in Ohio's Constitution that we have personal and economic freedom for every single worker. And that through personal economic freedom, we forge a path to prosperity in Ohio. And so here's the prepared statement I want to read for everyone. We believe that personal freedom and economic freedom equals prosperity. And workplace freedom for all Ohioans fulfills both parts of that formula. Workplace freedom is beneficial to all Ohioans, and we are confident that in guaranteeing workers their freedom of choice by focusing on protecting individual freedoms for all Ohioans. We are enhancing both personal and economic freedom, and therefore moving Ohio farther down the path to prosperity. We'll show that economic freedom is incredibly important to prosperity in Ohio, but equally important, and this is something that I learned in the Issue 3 campaign, equally important, personal freedom is incredibly important to all Ohioans. In many recent Ohio polls, we see this to be true. Asked over 1 year ago in a Magellan poll, it's available on the Buckeye Institute website, 85% of Ohioans believe that a person should not be required to join a labor union in order to get a job. That was in a poll where 20% of the 1,800 respondents were government employees. But still more interesting, the same poll question was asked again in the midst of the SB 5 debate just a few months ago. Once again, 85% of Ohioans chose workplace freedom. Fast forward to the healthcare freedom issue that just passed on the ballot, and the most recent snapshot of Ohioans for making a decision to support freedom of choice. Beyond winning the election with 66% of the vote, many of the polls showed fascinating insight into Ohioans' proclivity for personal freedom. Public policy polling summarized the results of a recent pre-election poll on securing health care freedom in Ohio this way. By a 55-24 margin, which ended up increasing in the end, voters say if the election was held today, they would support Issue 3, which was about protecting personal freedom. Republicans, unsurprisingly, support it by a 70-12 margin, independents 58-21, and more striking is the Democrats say right now they'd vote for it 41-35, all around the narrative of protecting personal choice, day-to-day decisions in people's lives. Of particular interest in that poll, 40% of the people supporting healthcare freedom identified themselves as very liberal. In the election, which occurred just 2 days ago, freedom of choice, and more specifically personal freedom, united both liberals and conservatives to yield an overwhelming result, even in a union-heavy turnout for this election. Was anyone shocked that Ohioans believed that restricting their decisions is a bad thing? Is anyone surprised that people chose freedom over compulsion for a way of life? Almost all Americans agree that the infringement on personal freedoms is something that they do not like. I believe that in an increasingly post-partisan and post-racial America, people are increasingly united in the common cause of personal freedom. It's the one thing almost all of us have in common. It's actually part of the American DNA. Each person expresses their desire to be free through various political and philosophical means. But on a very fundamental level, the freedom to choose one's own path in life is important to every single individual. Whether that is the right to be free of government based on mandates which compel behavior, or the freedom to choose whether they will join a union just to have a job. Ohioans, and I believe all Americans, merely want to guarantee ourselves freedom of choice. We simply want to uphold liberty as a way of life. To protect personal freedom We strongly defend a union's right to association in the private marketplace of labor and ideas. We never try to inhibit that from happening. But for that same reason, we defend the freedom of all Ohioans to be free from forced participation in a labor organization just as a condition of employment. In the recent campaign, there was much discussion on workers' rights. And while we feel that term is used out of context on too many occasions, the natural law of individual rights for every person to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is almost unquestionable. The bottom line is this: if any Ohio worker wants to join a union, they should be free to do so. But if any Ohio worker does not want to join a union, they should be free to make their decision as well. As mentioned at the beginning of my statement, workplace freedom is beneficial to all Ohioans, and we are confident that by guaranteeing workers their freedom of choice in the workplace, we are enhancing both personal and economic freedom, and therefore moving Ohio farther down the path to prosperity. Freedom has no singular owner, nor should it, and we want to guarantee that freedom for all Ohioans in their respective workplaces. Thank you very much.